give or take. You know, you got to either do the repairs for the building to be in compliance.
You have to maintain what you've got before you deal with getting something
before we
new.
could do anything moving forward.
Okay.
Could I just follow up on the thought of City Hall and the new construction of a potential new City Hall? I don't think we should necessarily assume that this building needs to be taken down, and this would be the exact location of a new City Hall. There are some other opportunities within our civic area here downtown, and just logistically, if we kept this building up while another building should be being built, constructed, you have a year or two, then you would still want to be occupying this facility. How do we take this, if it was so horrific, take this down and rebuild, and you'd have that large gap, you'd have to relocate all the different agencies and stuff, the different departments. So I think we're going to be looking into elsewhere nearby, very, very nearby, and utilizing other city land, hopefully. And maybe this can become, if it's kept properly, maybe it could be the educational wing, or for other departments in the city, educational wing of MoCA, or in some way utilized to some degree, because it's a solid building.
And again, one of the things that is not identified is the funding and the construction and the planning and the permitting. So you're still looking at about a 2 to 3 year period,
Right.
you know, before you could see something coming off the ground.
We're beating a dead horse.
And Commissioner H, this footprint would sort of limit us. We might have an opportunity for a bigger, better footprint
Correct.
nearby.
Yeah, all right.
And-
Next item.
And just to wrap that up, there will be, in the next CIP, we'll have the new City Hall building and everything listed in it. Right now, we're still going through the process, so we don't have a cost of what it might cost, or the type of bond or whatever we'll do. That's why it's not included in this book.
It's understood. All right,
Thank you,
next
sir.
item.
Next item, MoCA building expansion. Oh, I'm sorry. that's
We've
what we
done
just did.
that.
I'm sorry. MoCA roof replacement.
That we're going to need to do.
Yes, and that will be done next year.
Okay.
Um,
Anything else?
We have the 7th Avenue facade program. Again, that's another one that was part of the 2013, Progress 2013 projects, and it was $1 million allocated by mayor and council for that.
That's page 12 for the record.
What page?
12.
Page 12.
Can we discuss that?
Page 12.
And we have Sans Souci Alley Wall. I'll let Aline discuss page 14.
Could we discuss-
Mr. Prevotel has a
I'm
question
sorry,
on
sir.
something there.
Can we discuss page 12 a little further?
Yes, sir.
You know, I for one, I'm all for our downtown revitalization and the enhancement of our common good and the roadways and everything else that is a common amenity. And I wonder if we should possibly re-examine an allocation that's basically going into specifically private hands. It's very hard when you have the 60,000 or so residents to say, oh, now I'm going to give you this, and then inevitably they come back, they have their $100,000 grant, and oh, we need another 50,000 and another 50,000. And it just seems like I'd rather be putting that in towards common amenities on the street side, the sidewalks in front of those buildings, or the plantings, or the bus shelters, or whatever it might be, that is a permanent common improvement to our city, not individuals in private hands. Many of us are private owners, and if everybody came out with a sort of a handout, it's a very hard thing to meter out. And then how are we going to divide this pie into what, everybody's going to get $100? So I really wish we could reconsider this and make it a better investment, get more bang for our buck, and not sort of make it a bit of a giveaway to just some select individuals. Any thoughts on that? Anyone?
Well, 7th Avenue is an area that's seen plenty of ups and downs, although admittedly, you're hard-pressed to find a vacant business along 7th. It is one of the more successful business corridors in Dade County. And I understand the logic behind it. If you can invest in the facades and make the place upgrade its appearance, you can upgrade the rents, upgrade your tax collections, and hopefully spur some additional investment along 7th Avenue. But as it is, we're dealing with properties that were built in the early 1950s for the most part.
Correct.
And they're badly dated by any reasonable standard. And
As is much of our city.
yes, as much of the city. It's true.
Yeah.
But
It's
you go where you can to get a little improvement here and there. And, you know, I think we could do with some enhancement to some of the facades.
Yeah, and again, it's not my item, but one of the comments I would like to make is that if you look to the north of it, which is north of 145th Street, Miami-Dade County sections has been improved. There are brand new buildings, areas that has been demolished and rebuilt, going from 145th Street all the way to the Golden and Glades interchange. And if you look to the south, anything south of 119th, Miami-Dade County has also done a redevelopment projects along that corridor. So we know Miami is sitting in the middle, and you're coming in, one section is developed, and you see a facade, and then it changes, and it goes into, So again,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
let me ask our planning director a question, if I may. We brought up the fact that we're going to look at the land use again, are we not? And when are we going to bring that up again? When does that due?
Well, the comprehensive plan is due for update this fall, so around August you'll start to see workshops and
coming
conversation.
August. Okay.
Correct.
What I had
Next few
been
months.
looking at and the thought, we have a valuable piece of real estate between 119th and 143rd Street. We have the 7th Avenue Flea Market. We have a lot of low-end businesses out there. That should really just come down. A lot of it was residential at one time that was converted into warehouses, converted into workshops, what have you. When we look at this land use development again, there's no reason why we can't go 30, 40 stories and make this a pristine, beautiful area with a good tax base, creating good jobs for our citizens. It's absolutely preposterous to me to spend good money to improve the 7th Avenue Flea Market when the owner of that flea market should be improving it. Now, I agree with what the Public Works Director just said, that north of 143rd Street, the county put that in. They did that through their CRA. South of 119th Street was through the 7th Avenue CRA. I can go along with approving this, but I would hope that we would just kind of hold back. This would be up to the City Council's discretion. Hold back on improving the facades until we look at the land use, have a study on it, discuss it, bring it out for public discussion, because we are sitting, ladies and gentlemen, on a gold mine out there. There's no reason why Northwest 7th Avenue couldn't look like Brickell. And if we have a vision for the future, we have a vision for downtown, we want to redo downtown, we can redo Northwest 7th Avenue. I'd rather see us look at something grandiose, beautiful, creating a decent environment for the future, instead of just a slap patch job on a one-story building that isn't really going to give us a heck of a lot in return. That's how I
it's very
feel about it.
selective,
There's certainly a huge amount of potential for the Northwest 7th Avenue Business District. And I agree that the key to developing that sits in our land development regulations. We need to take another look at that.
What if rather than making this a select giveaway, why couldn't it be in the form of a loan? I mean, there's an X amount of money. Why don't we have it as a loan? They pay a relatively low interest charge and pay it back, and it'll now serve a couple years down the line, maybe another business and another business, rather than just giving it out and then they cash out, they sell the property and leave. Are we holding their feet to the fire that you're going to be here the next 10, 20 years and you're going to keep it up? They're just kind of a lot of questions arise when we start to give this to private individuals. And I just think it could be, if we can somehow get it so that it's more toward the public use, public benefit, or as a loan program, we'd be better served.
If I could add real quick, in terms of the $1 million that was allocated by mayor and council for this corridor, I know someone had mentioned before, why not spend it in the public domain? I just want to remind you that Northwest 7th Avenue is a state road. So the city's interest in spending money on a state road really isn't our domain or even our area to spend that money in an area that's actually a state-owned right-of-way. The directive from council at this point is to make that investment in the private realm. And that investment is seen as an economic development investment. And in turn, as the chair mentioned, with the increase in property values, the city would in the future then see an increase in revenues, tax revenues. So that's the approach that the mayor and council has taken. And again, I think the conversation needs to be had with the state and with FDOT. It's their right-of-way, and there's a responsibility to maintain and improve the appearance of that right-of-way.
Well, there's nothing wrong
so
with
that's just
7th
a
Avenue as
extra
a
thought.
surfaced road. The problem, I think, the baseline problem is the land development regulations that affect the types of buildings that can be built along that surface road. That's really the bottom line. And I understand really the 1950s architecture that stands to be upgraded significantly, but I would sincerely hope when we get to the LDRs this year, we take another long, hard look and do some serious dreaming for what 7th Avenue could become. Do we have any other comments?
Only a couple more, I'm sorry.
All right,
We're on
couple
page
more.
16, stormwater improvements, basic construction.
I think we did it earlier.
Can you tell us what you mean by the
alleyway?
basin? Where is this here? This is,
The San Souci alleyway?
San Souci alleyway.
I'm sorry, San Souci alleyway, page 14.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm sorry about that, sir. That's another Progress 2013 project that the council did allocate money for, in the amount of $200,000. And this was just
Yeah.
to erect a wall at Alima.
Correct.
Was that on
This-
122nd, Alim?
This is located from North Bay Shore all the way back to 122nd,
This is the 122nd Street town, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I
Behind
know
the alley.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
where the dry cleaners from the dry cleaners all the way
Yeah,
to
yeah, I know
North Bay
exactly.
Shore
They-
Park,
they could use
actually.
a wall there. Yeah,
The
I
back
know.
alley, which is the buffer between the colonnade townhouses
Right,
and
right.
the businesses.
I know, yes. I know exactly.
that's an area that's had a lot of complaints over the years. I can understand that. All right.
Page 16, stormwater improvements, basic construction.
Yeah, this is actually, the stormwater department actually did an updated stormwater master plan. Priority areas or priority basins were selected, and based on water quality, flooding complaints, depth of flooding, and hydraulic model ran. This is actually the first basin that we are going to be starting with the new adopted master plan. And the area that we are looking into is the area between West Dixie Highway, 135th Street, up to 142nd Street, and down to Northeast 14th Avenue, which is basically Center City area that has no major drainage improvement over the past 20 years. All the other areas from basin number 1 or priority number 1 to number 12 have been addressed already. So this is just moving along that line.
Okay.
We'll go to page 17, the Tressler Street drainage improvements.
This is actually in the budget because the mayor, myself, and the city manager was in Tallahassee. And potentially there's money allocated for drainage improvements
Good.
within business corridors. This area has no drainage system at present. And since there's lots of businesses within that area, we actually applied for a $500,000 grant and improvements for that area. This is why this project is in the CIP, because if funded, based on the work that the mayor and the city manager has done in Tallahassee, we should be able to get funding to do this project.
That's good, that could use it.
That would be
That
awesome.
could definitely use it there.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Is there
Page
anything else?
22, only 2 left. Page 22, sanitary sewer rehab.
Again, this is part of the ongoing requirements mandated by the federal government to address the I&I issues that the sanitary systems throughout Miami-Dade County is experiencing. The city has an aging system like every other system in Miami-Dade County. We are also part of the consent decree agreement with Miami-Dade County, and this is just to address the I&I issues that the city is mandated to follow.
Jeez.
I have a quick question on that.
Sure, sure.
Are the pump? Do we have our pump stations here?
47 of them, yes.
47. Are all of our pump stations out of compliance?
No, all our pump stations are actually, 46 of them are in compliance. When the peak flow management study and the SSES was completed, there was just one of them out of compliance, and it's due to, a private property that has constantly been neglected, and subsequent to that, Miami-Dade County, we've worked with them to get it off the compliance list because it was not a city issue, but a private development issue.
So it's a private pump station?
That's correct, yes.
That's excellent.
There's 110 private lift stations that tie into our So again, we are not the only ones. It's a consecutive system where we depend on the private side together with Miami-Dade County and ours. So
That's pretty good when you compare to other cities.
compared to
That's
other cities,
excellent
it is
news.
pretty good, yeah.
All right.
And that leads us into our last one on page 23, and that is the lift station rehab. And the reason we are in compliance, every year we budget about $200,000 to $300,000 on those lift stations, and we keep them up to date. And that way we are in compliance. And
That's
that wraps
correct.
us up.
And again, none of our pump station at present is on the consent order, as I said, because of funding. Although budget took away about 200,000, and we still getting funding to move forward.
Could we touch on, there's one item that page 33, which is the District 3 improvements.
Yes.
We didn't really spend too much time on that. I just wanted to remind the commission that a few months back we had a submission, not submission, but yes, there was a submission to privatize one of the cul-de-sacs, city-owned land that was abutting the canal around 127th Street, 130th Street, 133rd Street. There are three locations that are.
There was one request. I wasn't aware there were three.
No, okay, well, there was one request to.
127th,
partially privatize.
129th, and 131st.
It's that situation that we sort of voted to deny, and which the city council voted 5-0 to keep the land as city-owned land and not to privatize it. It would have meant privatizing it basically into 12 lots. The 3 cul-de-sacs leading onto the canal, and there was concern by the people living in that area, a very good support that they'd like to have that used as a park. And it would be an amenity for our city, I think, to be able to have possibly a kayak launching point, some landscaping, possibly some lighting, whether or not it needs to have parking spaces. It's not so heavily traveled where people couldn't park on the east-west streets and still walk over to this location. But I'd like, seeing that the District 3 has a $1.2 million allocation without a single light on it, I would like us to recommend that there be a light item for each of the 3 cul-de-sacs so that some attention is given to that space, that another 10, 20 years go by without anything happening, and it does enhance that neighborhood. Even if it was, if we called out saying of that 1.2 million, 100,000, 100,000, 100,000, if they do something less than that, that's fine. There'd be extra money to put elsewhere in that district. But this is a project in District 3, and I'd like us to create line items so that something is done for those residents over there that will see real results.
Well, it's a fair request for the consideration of the council.
Well, again, I've met with the constituents based on direction from city council members, and we actually came up with a tentative design, landscaping design for the area.
Great.
We are planning to do one of them, depending on how it turns out. We are trying to address, to meet the needs of everybody in the area. So based on the meeting that I had with a few of the constituents, we are coming up with some sort of planting scheme to meet, using natural plants and xeriscaping concepts. So we could actually we're going to do one of them, which is the 127th Street canal end, and then depending on the feedback, then I'm going to move to the others.
Can we at least reserve it in a line item? I mean, it could change later on, but if we could just
That's going to be a budgetary issue.
somehow, in some way, to formally recognize that?
I myself wouldn't be able to recognize it. I can mention it to the city manager, and he can do what he needs to do, but I'm not in a position to. This actually was done by, I think, council adoption for this money, and it's under the purview of the commissioner for that district. So it wouldn't be in my right to address it now. I couldn't. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, just to let you guys know, I know this process normally is done during the budget process, and we are behind, but you'll be seeing us again probably in another 3-4 months, but it'll be for next year's 5-year capital improvement plan. We've already started working on it, but this is just to let you know that we're getting back on schedule, and it will be done during the budget process from now on.
Now, before you run off with you and Mr. Gainey here, I have a small pet peeve. And I might as well voice it now. Perhaps in your reviews for the next visit, you'll maybe have a creative solution. You go to the intersection of Northwest 7th Avenue and 125th Street, and we have a really beautiful restaurant that's been completely revamped. The old Royal Castle property has now been turned into a really impressive location. But I have a peeve about how we maybe lost an opportunity to provide a covered bus bench in there. Now, if you look at what's happened, the entire property is fenced off with a nice steel black fence. Beautiful job. We probably had the opportunity to create a cut-in, buy some square footage, create a cut-in and put in a covered bus bench. But we didn't do that. They could have converted 2 parking spaces into bicycle and motorcycle parking, and it would have worked out the same in the end. But we didn't get a bus bench in there. And because there's that new, beautiful, really nice steel red fencing that comes across the front of the building, there's no place for people to go when it rains. There's virtually no shade along there, and that is a primary bus stop for the city of North Miami. Now, is there a possibility in 4 months we can get some creative thoughts as to how we could come up with a covered space there for the people that use the public transportation?
Yeah, actually, we did have permission from the property owner to install a bus bench at that location. And one of the things that the public works department is doing is installing a brand new water line within that area, within that right of way.
Yes,
And-
the resurface job is terrible, but
No,
that's
well,
another
it's
issue.
again, it's a temporary patch that we have there because FDOT is coming back to dig everything up out there.
Oh, what
And
joy,
there's-
naturally, yes, of
And
course.
that's the
Of course.
reason. That's the reason why it's
Sure.
left like that. And we are waiting. We are actually waiting on FDOT to come to start the project, which is going to be commencing within the next 2 months. We did talk to the property owner. He gave us permission to install the bus bench. I understand that the fencing went up, but we will be approaching him again to actually access an additional 5 feet of the property, and the city will be doing relocating the fence and still trying to put up or install a bus bench together with a different type of garbage can at the bus structure itself. So we are looking into that. It was looked into, and we are looking into it.
And this will be a covered,
It will
bus
be one of the covered bus benches, yes.
5 feet
That's
isn't.
that's one of the locations that one of the 5
Oh,
is
what
actually
is it?
earmarked for.
Well, what do you know?
Let me, I'll lean,
Then,
okay, let me see after the meeting, because I'm going to talk to you about
Sure.
16th Avenue
16, okay.
and the Archer Creek
then
Canal.
I think
Just
that
give me
would
a
be
second. Maybe
a
bus bench
huge
should go
plus if we made that one of the 5 and got that job done.
I will,
All right.
Mr. Siegfried.
Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak to this item? Any members of the public? Last call, hearing none. Public hearing is closed. The chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to...
Second.
Mr. Prevotel, move to approve, seconded by Mr. Reach. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Adopted. Congratulations on your
Very
capital
good job.
improvement plan. We look to see you back here in 4 months. All right, our next meeting will be on
All Fools Day, April 1st, Mr. Chair.
April Fool's Day. That's
Yes.
an auspicious day to have a planning commission meeting. All right, let's mark the calendars for April the 1st. Okay, that's going to be rather interesting, yeah. All right, we'll go with the planning commission for that night. If there's no further business to come before this commission, and I assume there isn't at this point.
Actually, may I
Yes,
ask?
Mr. Prevotel, you have one more item?
Well, we we are having this downtown revitalization, and I believe there are a number of meetings and walkthroughs and such, and I request from our Department of Community Planning and Development that if everybody, sometimes these are known in advance, if everybody could be sent an email or a week or whenever it is in advance, as well as a reminder on the day before or the day of the walkthrough, because I would like as many people from our Planning Commission and really every other board should be invited to this, because I think everybody sort of has a stake and everybody has insight to share on this, and the mayor is very much behind the new efforts and the rest of the council. So it'd be nice if we could see some positive change in the city, and if we can inform as many people as possible. I think we'll have some good input.
Very good. We look forward to it. All right. Thank you very much. This meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you.